Well, hello everybody. Danny back from Deep South Homestead on Porch Time. Oh, guys, I tell you what, I think it must be going to rain forever. It has rained and rained and rained. We get it rain at least one time a day, every day. Now, there's been a few days that it hadn't rained, but it is just, it's almost like we get this time of the year in August, what we call the dog days of August. And where it rains like for 40 days straight, we'll get at least a shower a day. But guys, this is the 1st of July. We went all the way through June. We got 20¼ inches of rain in June alone. I don't think I've ever had a time when my records where we've got that much rain in June. And July has started out with just more rain. You know, I mean, here, today, it's just unreal with the amount of rain we're having. And like we talked about on our live stream the other night, it wouldn't take a major hurricane in here right now to blow down all the timber. If it would, a good tropical storm with 50 or 60 mile-an-hour winds would blow down a lot of timber because the ground is just saturated. And it's been kind of bad on the gardens. Now the sweet potatoes is doing great; they're loving it. But the tomatoes, it really did a number on the tomatoes. I mean, Wanda and I put up, I don't remember how many actual pints of tomatoes we've put up. It's been probably 100 or more. But my poor corn, you know, it's tossling during all this, and I'm not sure how it's going to pollinate. It's one of those things that it's just going to be one of those years, you know. Now the grass in the fields is doing really good. It's making the grass is doing fine for the cows and stuff like that. The ponds are holding their own. They're doing fantastic. I mean, they're beautiful. Like the 4th, Sunday, Wanda and I just decided on the 4th, we got up and did our morning chores with the greenhouses and stuff like that. We just decided, you know what? We're not going to do anything today, but we're just going to fish in the mornings. We're going to clean them after we get through fishing, probably fish till about dinner, and then we're going to eat dinner, kind of chill in the afternoon, and maybe fish again late in the evening, and cook fish to eat. That's just something we wanted to do for the 4th, or Independence Day, should I call it. But guys, today I want to talk about, you know, we're in a situation where we've been brought up to live a certain way. And our ancestors were not brought up. Now when I say ancestors, I'm talking about our grandparents now. And I'm in my 60s, so my grandparents, people born from like a little early 1900s up to probably 1960 or something like that, or 1970. That age group of people that were born in that age group of people were not raised to throw anything away, and whenever when they created or built something, it was built to last. Like this little Cub farmall that I've been rebuilding, we're going to be putting up a lot of videos about that tractor. Those little tractors were not big heavy-duty machines, but after watching, this is a really cool thing, after watching the actual International Harvester videos on that tractor, the TV commercials, or whatever you want to call them, you can buy every piece of equipment to go with that tractor to run a whole farm. It's amazing. They make a piece of equipment to go with that thing for that. It was probably one of the most popular tractor models ever done by International Harvester. And to this day, I can still get every part for that tractor. And it's a tough little tractor. And it's an amazing little tractor for what it can do for its size. Now they're only around, I think, 9 or 10 horsepower, something like that. Your riding lawnmower has more horsepower than that tractor does. It's just not geared like that tractor is. But guys, that's my whole point. The society we live in today, things are made to break. And they're made to break on purpose. And that is just wrong. In all areas, that's just wrong. You know, I used to I used to demonstrate, or demo, I guess would be the word, Husqvarna chainsaws for the Husqvarna Chainsaw Company. They would give me a catalog like that thick to fill out on different. When they come out with a new saw, I would get it, and I would take that saw out and use it. I had to keep a record of how many trees it cut down in a tank of gas, how many times I had to file it, how much oil did it use, how many times did I have to clean the air filters out, did it bog down under a load, how was the vibration on my hands, all this kind of stuff I had to keep records of for them. And matter of fact, I still have the Husqvarna chainsaws today, some of them. And the thing about it is guys, one day I was using one of these saws, and this is no flack on the Husqvarna company, because I own a Husqvarna zero turn and all. I love their stuff, but it shows you the mentality. This is just one instant I'm going to talk to you about. I went to crank my chainsaw one morning. Well, the crank rope just pulled out of it. It almost started, but then when I went to do it again, it wouldn't grab. It like kept wanting to pull out, and it wouldn't turn the motor. So I took the plate off the side of it, and the starter dogs, I noticed they were broke. And I said, this is strange. The starter dogs and all the Husqvarnas I ever ran were always made out of a very hard aluminum product, but these were made out of a nylon product. And I was like, I called the company and I said, look, is there something wrong? I said, this has nylon starter dogs in it, and they're broke. And he goes, yeah. The guy sales rep told me, said, yeah. Said we had to change them. Said the aluminum ones were just never wearing out, so we wasn't really selling any parts. They just didn't break. So we fixed them where they would, and I was just like, this is wrong on all levels, And I was talking to a gentleman the other day about a particular product, and we were discussing it, and I said, man, why did they change this? Well, I'll tell you what. I went to get some grease for my tractor. I'm redoing the front wheel bearings on them, and I wanted to get some good grease that would pack in there, that wouldn't break down under heat. Has good viscosity. Like a disc brake type grease. And he told me, he says, I tell you what, I've got some grease in the back of the store back here. I'll just give you. I said, well, I don't want just any grease. He goes, no. He said, there's a particular company that makes this grease for another particular company. And the company that they made them for asked them to not use this grease anymore because the bearings inside a particular product on that piece of equipment was not wearing out. They just kept going and going and going, and they wouldn't wear out. So they said that the grease was just too good of a grease for that, and they're not making any repeat sales on parts or anything like that. But that they wanted to continue to make the oil for the transmissions in the product because they don't want to be replacing transmissions. They don't mind selling bearings and stuff like that. They just don't want to be working on transmissions and stuff, and because that makes their product look bad. The guy goes, so I'll just give you the grease. He said it's the best grease on the market. He said bearings just don't wear out with it. And I said, you are kidding me. The company told the grease company to quit using that grease and use a cheaper model grease on their stuff so they could sell more bearings? And he goes, yep. He said, in a nutshell, that's it. He said, so I've got all these tubes and cases of grease back there. I'll just give them to you. I'll give you some. And I told him, I said, well, thanks. He said, because I can't sell them. He said, I just have to give them to you. And so I appreciated that. But that's where we're at as a nation. This is why we're in the shape we're in. This is why we have to keep replacing stuff. It's because these companies won't repeat sales. The thing of making a product that lasts now just doesn't exist anymore. I've been doing a lot of reading back in the 1800s and the 1700s, how that when an individual made a piece of furniture, it was made to last for generations, not for a year or two. I mean, these things were made, different types of wood were used at different places in this furniture like rocking chairs, I think had like 4 or 5 different types of wood used in one rocking chair so that it would last. And today, everything is composite. Wanda and I were looking at some lawn furniture to go on one of our patios over here. They wanted an astronomical amount of money, over $1,000 for a chair and a table, made out of a composite material stuff that was not made to rot. And I said, well, that's good that it won't rot. And I said, well, let me sit in it. And I sit in it, and I want to kind of, man, I'll jump around in it, and I'll rock it back and forth, And, whoa, I almost broke it sitting right there on the man's place. And I'm like, whoa. I got up, I said, dude, this thing's kind of flimsy for that kind of money. And he goes, well, he said, it's not intended to be got rough on. It's just made to sit in. I'm like, yeah, but, some people are pretty heavy. And sometimes kids, if you're not around, they get kind of horsing around, or maybe you sit down too hard. The older you get, you can't hold yourself to sit down like you used to, and you kind of maybe sit down kind of hard. And I said, the last thing you want is that thing to break and fall down on you for that kind of money. And he said, well, he said that's just how companies make their money if something breaks. And I'm like, no. I said, as a matter of fact, I'm looking for lawn furniture now that'll probably be some kind of powder-coated steel, something that can handle some kind of aluminum alloy that's really hard, and it's lightweight, but yet I can sit it outside and it's powder-coated steel. I don't have to worry about it rusting or anything like that. I said, I don't want none of this junk. I said, this is crazy. And he actually looked up some aluminum powder-coated, really good metal stuff for me, was half the price. That just blew me away. I'm like, this stuff here is made out of hard metal, and it is rigid, because he had a test piece I could sit in, and you could jump around it and do whatever you wanted, and it just stood. It was rigid. It was welded hard, good, and I was like, so this is half the price of that stuff over there, and that stuff over there will break? And he goes, yep. He said, that's just the way the cookie crumbles, And I was just, I don't know what to say about the future of our country. We've sold out to foreign countries who make cheap junk, and y'all know who I'm talking about. And we don't mind buying it because it's cheaper. It fits into our budget. I'm not one of them people. I'm one of these kind of people, I don't care what something costs, as long as it's durable, it's going to hold up, and it's going to be there for years and years. Cost never bother. I never take into consideration the cost of things, because if it's more than what I have, I'm willing to wait and just save my money, rather than go out and buy some kind of flimsy junk. I mean, one good scenario would be a swimming pool. People go buy these plastic-sided swimming pools that just flop around like this till you get them full of water, and then they bow out and hold themselves. And, some kid jumps on the edge of it wrong, and it busts, and all the water pours out of it. And everything's just cheap, cheap, cheap. We live in a cheap world. We have a cheap mentality. Everybody goes, well, but I can't afford to do any better. That's the mentality that's put us where we are. It's not that a person has to be rich. It's just that you have to be willing to wait and save your money up for what you want. It's the microwave society that we live in today, the instant gratification that says, I want it now. I'll pay a cheaper price even if it breaks. Guys, that's what's wrong with our country today. And you know what? That mentality has bled over to elected officials. When we elect people for an office, we don't necessarily look at their moral values. We look at what can they do for me when they're in office. Totally wrong concept for putting a person in office. The key things in putting someone in office should be their moral and spiritual values. But yet we're more interested as a society in what can these people in office do for me. And we don't even take into consideration how do they view God? How do they view life, especially of the unborn and all these kind of things? How do they view all this stuff? That don't seem to matter to us anymore. And that has caused a ruinous nation. Anytime in scriptures that you look up, when Israel did not put the Lord first and let the Lord do the leading for them in all areas of their country, they ended up collapsing as a society and going into some sort of pagan worship and pagan captivity. And they lost their freedom. And as a country today, that's exactly where we're at. And it all started with not making products that would stand the test of time. It broke down our ability to think for ourselves. And when we got to a throwaway society, we got to a society that says, you know what, throwaway politicians, they're only going to be in there for 4 years. How much harm can they do, you know? And then all of a sudden, they're in there for another 4 years. And because there's no term limits on a lot of them, they're in there for another 4, and another 4, and another 4. And then some of them end up making a lifetime career out of it, and they've been there 60 years, you know. That's the problem. You know, I had a Cajun friend of mine down from New Orleans that he told me, he said, Danny, politicians are just like a bushel of apples. If you leave them in a bushel too long, they go bad and they spoil everyone around them. It's best to pick them when they're a little bit green and use them up by the time they're ripe. Don't try to keep them. He says, and politicians are the same way. And you know, I've never forgot that from a young man. There's a lot of wisdom in that. I look up at the situation we got going in our country today, and the people that seem to be causing all the trouble and causing all the problems in our society are those that have been there forever. And how they keep getting elected back to office, I just, honestly, I don't know. Are we that ignorant as a society that we just keep putting the same ones back in there again? I mean, come on. The definition of an idiot. Let's just talk about the definition of an idiot. The definition of an idiot is a person who keeps doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting to get a different result from it. Now that's the definition of an idiot. And that's what we've done as a society. We keep putting the same people back in there because they keep telling us, oh, I'm going to do this time. I'm going to do this time. And they've told us that every time, and when they get in there, they don't do nothing. It's just like they're heading out here doing this right here. It's whoever can line their pockets. And, guys, we are going to collapse. Let's just go ahead and say it. We're going to collapse. There's no way we cannot. I don't see how we can pull out of anything that we've got ourselves into. I saw this past week where China is gearing up at this moment for a full-scale war. Now, let's just stop and think for a moment. Who are they going to go to war against? Well, right now, who's probably the weakest nation, is the most unstable, got the most controversy going on inside the country, don't have any leaders who can stand up and do anything, has no ability to govern itself, shall we say, we better turn around and look in the mirror, because it's probably going to be us. And we're sitting back here saying, oh, they're just great. Oh, they're great people. You know, I mean, you know, we got to love everybody. Well, I see things a little bit differently. And to me, the enemy is the enemy is the enemy. They will always be the enemy. I'm not one for, I don't believe in getting in bed with the enemy. I believe in dealing with the enemy. And I think that's been our biggest downfall as a nation, is we have not dealt with the enemy like we should have back when we could have. Now that we are so deep in debt, we probably can't. And as a result of it, we're probably going to collapse. We're probably going to fall. We're probably going to lose our freedoms that our forefathers and our granddaddies and our daddies and our aunts and our uncles and everybody lost their lives for, our sons and our daughters and everybody. It will all have been in vain, because we sit back and we do nothing. And we expect to get a result from that. And it all started with making cheap products, making throwaway stuff. It just took a couple of generations to change the mentality that something should be made to last. And if it wasn't made to last, then you don't buy it. It's amazing how easy it is to lead someone when you do it just a little bit at a time. It's a little bit along. I was looking the other day, things that my mama and my daddy would have turned, my mama and daddy would turn over in their grave if they saw the things that was permitted on TV now. I mean, I've used this scenario one time. My mama got one of the neighbors' Victoria's Secret catalogs in the mailbox by mistake by the mail lady, and she was just appalled. She was like, oh my gosh. She said, don't look at this, son. You know, and I was a grown man, married with kids and everything, but she's like, don't come over here and look at this. I'm like, well, Mom, I said, what is it? And she said, oh, this filthy magazine that somebody just, or catalog, somebody just put it in my mailbox. And, oh my word, it belongs to so-and-so. I can't believe they let stuff like this come to their house. I said, Mom, what is it? And she looked, she says, it's something called Victoria's Secret. And she said, son, these women have no clothes on, hardly. I just started laughing. I said, Mom, I said, you can go down to the mall. They've got one in the mall down here. I said, it's where women buy their lingerie and stuff like that at. And she said, oh my goodness, people wear this kind of stuff? And I was like, Mom, yes, women wear that type of stuff. I said, as a matter of fact, at that time, my wife wore it, you know. And I said, and she said, son, right then she made a point to me. She said, son, when I was growing up, this would have never been permitted. And she said, this is the kind of stuff that's going to bring about the collapse of our society. And I was, you know, I was a young man. I just kind of laughed and went on about my business. But now that I'm older, I see what she was talking about. It's just gradual. They gradually let these things in to us, and we become comfortable with them because mainly they make it humorous to us. They do it in a form of comedy so that we laugh about it. And we catch ourselves laughing about it. Like, I'll give you for instance, John Ritter did a thing years ago called Three's Company. with the two girls and him living in the same apartment complex together. Well, everything was just humorous and laughing. Everybody, and that's how they got people where everybody just lived together. Men and women just lived together without being married, was because, hey, they made it humorous. They did klutzy things and kind of stupid things, and people found it funny and they laughed about it. And first news, it's just the norm, Oh, we just live with them, and if we like them, we like them. If we don't, we don't. We just find somebody else to live with, And that's where, guys, that's how we get where we're at. The old devil has been so sly and so cunning. That's why he's called the serpent. He just eases his way right into something like that. And the next news he's got you hooked, and you absolutely see nothing wrong with what you're doing or what you're looking at. I see it on YouTube all the time. I see thumbnails, and I look at them, and one that I was had a recommended popped up on ours the other day was a fully nude woman from the backside. And I was like, and it was a homesteading channel, and I was like, what is this? And she goes, that's a naked woman. And I said, and it's on the thumbnail. And I looked down, and the views was astronomical at the amount of views. I said, you know what? That's what you do when you have no content. Wanda and I don't care I don't care how many views we get. It doesn't matter to us. But some people are out there to really get the views, and because they're trying to make a big paycheck. And with us, it's more about, I'm trying to show you how to grow a sweet potato. I'm trying to show you how to grow some things in containers. I'm trying to show you a high tunnel, what's going on with the high tunnels. We're just trying to be educational, and we try not to show anything that's too revealing to anyone, because we don't feel like that's right. But there are those out there that do, and it just gets to us. We're like, wow. And now this is the crazy thing now. We are scrutinized heavy about our speech. And we can't say certain things, but yet we can show body parts. That's perfectly okay. Guys, that's how we got where we are today. God is not happy with this. He's not pleased with this. And as a result, we will see a collapse of our society. So keep these things in mind, guys. Let's get back to our morals. Let's take up Jeremiah 6:16 in the Bible when he says, "Return to the old paths, wherein is the good ways." Not talking about going back to horses and buggies, but talking about returning to the old principles of life, just good moral life where we love the Lord. Guys, that's the key to everything, is just love the Lord with all your heart, your soul, and your might. Thank you, guys, from Deep South Homestead.